Welcome everyone to another podcast. We are speaking today with Kim Slick of Recovery Matters. It is a recovery center that she has developed. And welcome, Kim.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to bringing this together for the community.
Okay. Well, I have been an addiction counselor for 15 years, and I've worked at a variety of outpatient substance abuse treatment centers in basically Snohomish County for the last 15 years. Prior to that, what brought me to that is my own personal recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. And so about 6 years ago, through a series of events that happened in my life, I had a sense that I should look and consider the idea of opening my own treatment center. I was scared to pieces at first, and then series of events showed me that yes, this was a door that I definitely needed to walk through. So I did. And so 6 years later, here I am. I've been providing outpatient substance abuse treatment as well as assessments to the community, Snohomish, Everett, Lake Stevens, Monroe, Salton, Gold Bar, all of that, those wonderful places.
Let's tell people where you are and how they can find you.
Okay, so I'm right in Snohomish on Avenue D. The address is 722 Avenue D, next door to Jiffy Lube, across from Subway, a few blocks from the high school, right in the heart of little old Snohomish.
Excellent. And you have a presence on the website?
I have a
website?
I have a website. Yep, you can find me on the internet.
Under the same title?
Yeah, I think it's Recovery Matters Snohomish. Yeah.
Great. That's good. So with what you do you have other practitioners that work alongside of you, or are you sole provider of mental health care?
Okay, so I have, over these 6 years, I've had a few other gals come and go. I train, I'm really excited about training interns. So new counselors in the field, I've brought them on and trained them. And I had the most recent one, she stayed with me for about 2 years after she became certified and helped me and worked here as a counselor. With all the stuff that's gone on lately, the coronavirus and all of that, she has left. And so it's just me again. And, so my answer to your question is yes, I've had other people come, but right now it is just me.
So when you are seeing people, because now I'm going to make an assumption and you can correct me, do you do a lot of in-person, and then you are taking care of the space to satisfy the regulations, the needs of the COVID thing, or do you do mostly video chat or phone chat?
Oh, so for about 3 weeks, we closed down because, when the governor said, oh my goodness, COVID, everybody closes down, I kind of never been through this before, so I didn't really know what to do. So for about 3 weeks, we worked from home and just did phone conversations with people. And then at some point during that time, I realized, wait, I think I'm essential, and the clients want to come back to see me, and I want to be there, because doing this from home was just not my cup of tea. And so I opened back up, and that's, the other counselor didn't come back at that time. She just had different beliefs about social distancing, I guess, than I did. And so I honored that, and I've just been doing it, by myself since then.
Okay.
I had to make a few adjustments So I'm not overwhelmed, but it's really working. It's lovely right now.
Great, great, great. So let's kind of jump into the heart of what you do, which has to do with substance abuse and addiction. And maybe you could tell people a little bit how that works, how you can help them if they are going through, or they have a family member that is struggling with some sort of addiction.
Okay. Well, I love the question. Okay, so primarily what I've done over the last 6 years is people get DUIs for alcohol or drugs primarily, and they're referred to me by an attorney to satisfy their court obligations. And so that's mainly what I've done. I've had people throughout the years, I've had people call me that just see my sign and say, I'm struggling with either an opiate addiction or an alcohol addiction, and I really need help. I was kind of drawn to your place. So we start off by a phone conversation, and then eventually we set up an appointment for an assessment where I just kind of determine where they're at and what their needs are, and if I feel that I'm a good fit for them. And if that's the case, and they almost always feel like I'm a good fit for them. And so, after people meet me, they're usually like, yes, I want you to help me.
Excellent.
So then we talk about money, and I'm really, I never got into this to become rich. Honestly, I got into this to save lives and just to bless people. And so we talk about the money thing, and we find out, I don't think treatment should be free, because I think if you invest in something, you're more invested in it. And
well, it's an exchange of energy, isn't it?
Exactly. So we talk about what is going to maybe challenge them a little bit, but not stress them out so much that it won't be beneficial. And we come up with a plan and a number. And, one thing that I do that I think is that I've been able to do on my own that I think is unique, as opposed to having worked for other people and other agencies, is that I really individualize my treatment. And I, as far as what they can afford to pay, as far as what I think is going to be beneficial to this client, whether it be attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or meditating or yoga classes or, whatever it is, or outside mental health help, because I'm a substance abuse counselor primarily. And so I have to kind of work within my scope of training. And so, if somebody needs a referral to go somewhere else, I do that. But
That's excellent.
Yeah.
It's good to know that there is the added bonus that you have other places for them to go, or then ongoing, whether it's with you or not. So what would be some of the components that might make up somebody's treatment plan, just like a broad view? Like,
Okay.
how do you assess someone's addiction, whether it's alcohol or it's opioids? Is that different for each kind of addictive item?
That's a great question. No, it's the same for any substance that's abused, whether it be alcohol or opiates or marijuana or stimulants like cocaine or methamphetamine. The same criteria, and it's a state criteria. I'm licensed and certified by the Department of Health. So there are 11 different criteria that we look at, no matter what the substance is, that determines whether somebody has a no problem, a mild problem, a moderate problem, or a severe problem.
Well, good. That way they can determine and know how you're going to help them. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and when I do an assessment, I go over those criteria with the client, which is something I feel pretty good about, and I don't think that's always done when people get assessments. Um, and if someone comes to me for an assessment, they're trusting me, and I take that seriously, and they gave me money for that, and I take that seriously, and I will explain, these are the things I look for, this is what I heard from you, and this is how I came up with, mild, moderate, or severe, and what then dependent on what the diagnosis is, there's different treatment recommendations, whether they would be coming once a week or 3 times a week, or
Okay.
whether I would say, I think you would be better served in an inpatient setting. And then I would give them a referral and say, and I sure hope you come back to me when you complete that. And then we can do more of an outpatient thing.
So with the type of counseling that you offer, do you also speak to, whether it's a singular, or I noticed on your website that you do, at one time you did group settings. Do
Mm-hmm.
you address the grief and the shame, the things that come along when someone is in the position of wanting help and feels alone, feels like they don't have anywhere to turn?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Katharine. How can you not? How can you not? It's at the core of it. And yeah, and I think that's I'm not trying not to toot my own horn, because I'm not that girl, um but I think that's a piece that's missing in a lot of treatment that is available and out there. And there's some good treatment out there, and there's some not so good treatment, but yes, absolutely, because at the core of addiction is, shame and guilt and identity issues and beliefs that we have about ourselves.
So when you were working with someone that, like, as you spoke about yourself, having been in an addictive mode and then in recovery early on, speaking to the younger crowd, is there a mode that is easier for them to address when they come in and talk to you? It's a different concept that younger people have than, say, somebody who is in my age bracket, so to speak. We view addiction and we view the emotions and the shame around it very differently. How do you go about that with the different age groups?
Okay, well, I guess with that, I think individually, I mean, for me as a counselor, somebody that's, willing to walk this path and take somebody through that, I'm really, I guess I'm pretty good at identifying where a person's at, and versus someone in their teens, late teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. I think I'm well versed at speaking the language and understanding kind of the dynamic or the culture of the different age groups. And so it just, it's addressed differently, obviously, depending on where they're at and on their life path and their experience.
So when you're, whatever the age bracket is of someone that comes in, do you look to what started this cycle? Do you look to the pain, or there's a lot of family issues that can bring on the need to mask pain? Is that something that comes up often, or is that something that comes in later on or with a different type of counselor?
Super good question. So, because I personally believe, and there is a belief in this field, that a lot of the field is kind of shifting and changing to where people are recognizing, professionals are recognizing that a lot of addiction, yes, it comes from, there's genetic predisposition, there's environment. I mean, there's so much that plays into it, but it's leaning more towards early childhood trauma, which is really, when I first kind of heard that and wrapped my head around it, I thought, well, wait a minute now. I'm a recovering addict, and I didn't have any early childhood trauma. I had a decent upbringing, and then I thought about it some more and kind of realized that trauma is not, I mean, I always thought trauma was like, oh my goodness, your parents left you on the side of the road, or some horrible thing, some abuse happened. And I began to look at it differently, and that we all have trauma, and it's not for me or you or anyone to judge what's traumatic to another individual, and
Right.
it's kind of new in the field, not well, maybe the last 10 years or so, but it's new to me to realize, and then pass on to my clients and explain that, what, you guys, we all have had traumatic events.
Right.
I have people that I have a client who's had a sister who was given up for adoption because they couldn't afford another child, and my client was 4, and he's recognized that that was a traumatic event for him. And so, we've kind of been able, so I don't know if I answered your question or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to expand on it just a little bit, within that realm of knowing that some of the addictions, some things take place because of early trauma,
Mm-hmm.
how do you address when people ask, well, my family is having a hard time understanding my addiction and why the trauma that was for me, they don't see it that way, and there's a lot of judgment. How do you speak to that and help them navigate family and friends that are not being maybe very helpful for them?
Wow, you're just full of good questions.
Well, thank you.
So okay. So I do a lot of teaching on, educating them on family dynamics, and how, what was, what was maybe traumatic for my client might not necessarily be something that the other family members maybe perceived as traumatic. And I like the whole idea of family systems theory, and we all experience basically the happenings and stuff of living and growing together differently. And so, also another thing I really would like to do moving forward with Recovery Matters is bring in family members. I want to work more with family members on educating them so that they can be of support to their recovering, family member.
So navigating the judgment and the, for the person that is looking to be healthy and recover, the judgment and being told that their memory or their picture of how they grew up and what happened doesn't exist. How do you deal with that?
Oh gosh, it exists for them.
Exactly. But they have to learn to navigate their family, and that's a very tough place. So I was wondering how you might address that for someone. because
Okay.
the judgment of family can be very fearful for people, which will then maybe bring them to a place of not getting some help.
Right. So I'm trying to really kind of understand what you're looking for. I'm kind of struggling with this one, to be honest with you.
Okay,
Um,
so when we'll just break it down. A person
okay.
comes in and says, you know, I'm having a hard time with this. I'd like your help, but I don't have the support of my family. They don't think that I have a problem, or they think my addiction is because I have no willpower or I'm just lazy. I don't know how to hang on to family and be a part of that nucleus and get myself healthy.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, if I'm just working with that client, I'm gonna educate them about the ways that their use or addiction or whatever has impacted their family members, and potential likely responses that other family members would have to that, and so that they have some understanding around that, and so that they can move forward with their recovery and realize that, although these people love and support them, they're not walking in their shoes. They may not fully understand everything, about addiction that I'm talking about here with them. And, and then
So,
just also just helping the client to with communication skills, with
right.
self-care, with that kind, with boundaries,
So
with
these are all trigger points, correct?
totally,
For a person in
absolutely,
recovery.
yeah,
So the trigger points can be obviously something that you address fairly clearly right up front so that they have some tools in their back pocket, so to speak.
absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, because people come in and they're just like, okay, I either have to, or I want to, or I think I should, or quit drinking, and I suppose people come in with the like, either I don't think I can do it. Some people come in with I don't I don't think I can do it, but I have to, or others come in with more of a mindset of I can do it and it's going to be easy and I'm just done, and have no idea what the road ahead looks like. So I feel like I kind of, since I've been there, I kind of see that for them. And so I try to educate and prepare them for the things that are going to come up, because undoubtedly they will. And with family members, it could be employers, a spouse, it could be anything. But the whole like kind of community or environment around the recovering person shifts as a result of that person getting clean and sober. So just helping them to kind of maintain their own equilibrium and their own sobriety, balance, peace, joy, all of that stuff in the midst of everybody shifting, and maybe not, some people maybe not liking what's going on, because it's unfamiliar, because we get used to living, we're kind of like, if you think of a mobile over a baby's crib, all the family members balance out with each other, either in a negative fashion, or then we shift and everybody shifts, and
Right?
then yeah, just finding that equilibrium. But my heart and my focus is on, so at least at this point, on the addict, and how they're going to just be true to themselves in the midst of all this shifting and all this new stuff that's coming up.
So with what you offer in your counseling, how do you deal with someone who their addiction is a result of a deep loss? To me, that's a whole different emotional ball game.
It is.
And people will, whatever their loss is, whether it's a person or something that was very important to them in their life, they will turn to, more often than not, alcohol because it's socially acceptable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you go about helping somebody with a deep loss in then walking the recovery?
So I'm doing that right now. And so oh yeah, it's tough, and you walk gently, because depending on how recent, the loss was, that makes a big difference on, like, first of all, I need to assess, is this person ready to really talk about this? Or is this something I'm going to kind of sneak in the back door in a few months? Or is this something that they just, not very often would this happen, but they're in crisis mode. This is not something we can dig deep on right now.
Right.
But
You have to tread lightly with it. I get it totally.
yeah,
With
yeah.
with the uptick of addictions in Snohomish, have you seen more of the families coming to you, like saying, my daughter or my son has been having a problem, we need some help? Can you speak to
Yes.
that? Snohomish has had kind of a crisis for a number of years on some pretty deep drugs.
Yeah. I'm so honored and privileged and blessed to be in Snohomish. I just knew this. I landed here for a reason. But yes, I have had parents call about their kids over the last several years. I just we had pizza here last night because we just need to lighten the mood sometimes. So we had group, and I said, it's pizza and gratitude night. So come on, come one, come all. We're just we're all going to get together. I ordered pizza, and we talked about how grateful we are. And anyways, so that happened, and I had a mom that had, because a lot of my clients have driver's license issues. So a mom that dropped her adult son off and then came back to pick him up. And she said, I would really like to, she said, this client, this young man has changed so much. And I'm so grateful for, the service, for how you've helped him. And yeah, I know. And she's like, and could we talk sometime? And of course I said, of course I was delighted, but I said, your son would need to sign a release of information enabling me to do so. And then absolutely, because not only am I'll just throw this in, but not only am I an addict in recovery and long-term recovery, but I have children that have struggled with addiction. And so not only have I been the addict, I've been the mom of
Right.
the addict.
That's a tough
And
place.
yeah. And I'm delighted to say my children are experiencing miraculous changes right now. And
Oh,
I'm,
good.
yeah. But it hasn't always been that way. It's been a long, hard road. And so, so this mom of the client is like, can we talk? And I'm like, how can I not? Yes. How can I not? How can I not be there? So did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get across to those that are watching is that you offer a safe place and you offer hope, and it isn't one type of, like, a DUI and a necessary court ordered thing, that you have an open door to whoever needs help? And that's kind of where I was hoping to direct that question.
And that is a beautiful place to direct that question, because yes, 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 and yes. I mean, yes.
Excellent.
And I loved how you said, I offer a safe place and I offer hope, because that is the heart of, it has been, and it will, I hope will continue to be the heart of what I do and why I do what I do, is that, you know, addict or not, humans, we are looking for, we need a safe place. We need hope. And I got into this because I knew that addicts needed that, and I wanted to provide that. You know, I wanted to provide that, and I am in it now because I know that humans need that.
So
And
let's kind of talk to the mechanics of when you do an assessment and somebody decides to come into your program.
okay.
What is required of them? What do you require of them?
Okay, so do you want me to talk about like prices or
No,
no?
like, do you require that they make a steady showing? Like, do you have protocol that
Yeah,
holds them accountable?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I and I'm not probably as strict as other places I've worked, as far as, if you're absent, I will not excuse it unless you have a doctor's note. I you know, but I do hold them accountable. You know, it's if someone's required to be here, let's say 3 times a week, they're required to be here 3 times a week. This is a commitment, and you know, you need to be all in if it's really going to work, you know. At the same time, I am a loving, compassionate person, and I understand that your daughter has a 16th birthday party, and so maybe you're gonna miss one of those days. So it's a fine line where you want to make treatment really like doable and reasonable for people, but you don't want to but you also need to hold them accountable, because that's one thing addicts, alcoholics, we kind of lack and we kind of lost in the whole addictive process, is like, yeah, I am accountable to my family, my community, my job. I and so accountability is something, it's actually a topic that we have, that we discuss, is like, you know, who are you accountable to? First and foremost to yourself, but maybe it's God, if that's, you know, your belief system. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it is absolutely me, because if you come here and you contract with me to help you with this thing, there is some accountability that's implied there. I don't like the way this sounds, but I'm kind of the boss of you. And like, if I say, you
Well,
know,
that's also a mom trait.
yeah, exactly. Totally. And, you know, and people that have been with me long enough that, I guess I kind of train them. I mean, because they kind of know that
Yeah.
Kim loves us, and she's, you know, she's kind and compassionate. She's going to listen, but she is going to make us toe the line. We got to pay her, and we got to show up or call when we're not gonna. And
Good.
yeah. So yeah,
So I'd like to address something that you just spoke to, is the spiritual and or the religious aspect of these kind of things for people. I'm assuming from the way you talk, you are open to anyone that
yes,
chooses to come in. You don't have a one way or no way.
absolutely. Yeah. No, how, well, it doesn't I could not be that person. Yes, I'm absolutely open to whatever it is, their belief system that's working for them. Yeah, it doesn't yes. And then it's kind of cool what happens as a result of, I think, my openness is that we can talk about, okay, your belief, this is your belief system. How is that working for you? Maybe how isn't it working for you? And then,
Oh,
I don't know.
excellent.
Yeah, magic just happens, Katharine, in that conversation.
Yep.
And I don't even know what to say, how it's magic. And it ends up being very beneficial. That's all I can.
Good. So
Yeah.
I have kind of a serious, deep question, and
Okay.
don't feel like you have to answer it by any means. So when you have worked with someone that has a fairly deep addiction, say heroin, and goes into recovery numerous times and just can't let it go, and they end up losing the battle, do you step in, or is there an option for families to come and speak to that or to get help from you for that?
Wow. Amazing that you asked that question, because that happened, I want to say 3 weeks ago now. And it's a difficult thing to talk about still, but yeah, I had a young woman. I mean, I was young to me now because a young woman
Right.
in her 30s. And she actually came here not because of a court obligation or order to do so. And it was the drug that you're talking about. It was heroin. And we worked with her for several months, and there were some slip ups, and one too many slip ups of returning to use, to where we said, we really think, and I say we because the other counselor was here at that time too. We really think that you need to go to an inpatient facility, because this is just not enough accountability for you at this time, and you're having a difficult time, and maybe an inpatient where you could get some, deeper mental health care as well as substance abuse, and just separate from the world for a while. That's what inpatient kind of does for you. And we brought, and her family, her sister, which was her main support system, came in for that meeting to kind of brainstorm with all of us, how are we going to help this gal, And so that was set up, and then COVID happened, coronavirus happened, and we anyways, I'll just get right to the point. We lost her.
Yeah.
She overdosed, and it's been rough. The things that have been going on the planet currently, and in the last month, I've lost 2 clients, and
So what you do there, you can, if they come to you, you help the family members walk this loss and the grief.
yes, okay. So the one family member, yes, I'm willing moving forward to do, yes, to absolutely be available and there and present for any family member that is left in that kind of situation. I would consider it an honor and a privilege. And years ago, in the work that I did when I was working for somebody else, I was able to actually be there for a while for a wife whose husband overdosed. And so that is something that my heart, that's what I would, it's an honor and a privilege. How can I not? With the recent two that I've lost within the last month, one is a mom, and she's in Idaho. So we had a few phone conversations. And another is the sister of the woman I was speaking of earlier. And we had some amazing, wonderful healing phone conversations. She's actually a very spiritual woman. And so there wasn't a lot of like work that I needed to do. There was just a lot of probably just kind of confirming some beliefs that she has and sharing my experience with her sister as a client, and and just some of the things that she had shared about how grateful she was for those 6 months that she was sober to reconnect with the sister. And I got to share that with the sister and her after she had gone. And then the sister got to share with me how those 6 months were, she was so grateful for, because she had never known her sister because of her addiction. That never, and during those 6 months, they crafted, I have something on my wall right here that she crafted me. They crafted, they bonded, they cried. And so the sister told me in her passing how grateful she was for Recovery Matters, and that her sister had gotten these 6 months. And I was able to tell her how the client had expressed to me how grateful she was for these 6 months that she got to know her sister for the first time. And then the client was gone. And but we were able to have that conversation, and it was beautiful, and it was exactly what was needed. And she has my number, and I said, please reach out to me if there's more that you need or more that I could do. And then the next week I sent her a flower bouquet, and to remind her, I'm still here, please reach out to me. And she hasn't, but if she needs to, she will, and I will be here, you know. And so, but yeah, I would I'm just open and willing to one day at a time walk through any of that with anybody, because we all just need, life is hard, whether you're addicted or not, you know. It's challenge, and we need compassionate, safe, kind, loving, but hold you accountable people. We all do. Humanity needs, we just need it. And I have this little niche, and it's addiction. And I'm grateful.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, do you feel like you have anything else that you want to speak to around what you do, or do you feel pretty complete?
I feel really complete.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to say, once again, Kim Slick of Recovery Matters, I so appreciate you coming on and telling us about your center and what you do and how you help. It has been a great pleasure.
Well, thank you. And I actually did think of one more thing.
Okay. Good.
So, you know, I'm so grateful as well how the universe brought me to this point through a sweet little gal named Megan, you know, that you and I are having this conversation. And then I checked out your website, because I'm like, well, I should probably learn about this woman who's going to be interviewing me. And so I checked out your website, and I was like, oh my goodness, I think this, because as a helper, as a counselor, I need to always make sure that I have a helper and a counselor and a guide. And
we all need that.
Right. And so that I can show up healthy for my clients, you know. And so I looked at your website, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this just might be the lady. So is that awesome or what?
That's the universe for you.
I know. So
It is.
I guess I'll just end with that. Katharine, so lovely to meet you, and I'm sure we'll talk again.